Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. After a brief hiatus, we are back. Let's face it, there hasn't been much racing, has there? But it's warmed up a little bit, so that's good news. We are back with the Grade 1 preview as far as the feature race goes on Saturday, which yet again has served up a decent-looking clash in the Clarence House. It doesn't always happen year on year, but we've got Mullins against Henderson again this year, so that's really good news. And two other horses as well, which we will come to. We're going to be previewing all of the Saturday stuff. We'll have a Friday section because it's the Winter Million weekend, so we've got a few bets for you Friday, or the team do. I don't, and we'll also have a quick glance at Sunday. It's a really good team for you this week. Matt Toombs, Charlie Poste, and Micheál Deasy are along to preview all the racing for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or follow and subscribe, however you're listening or watching. And the Cheltenham Trail is back. Matt Toombs is very much part of that team. Matt, episodes 1 and 2 are out now. What do they focus on?
So the first week we split it with the hurdles action, mainly focusing on Christmas. The second week that's just been loaded up yesterday or the day before was on the chases. So we've covered a lot of action, and particularly looking forward, because I think the consensus is, and I'd certainly go with this is shaping up into one of the most exciting Cheltenham festivals for a few years, partly because of the changes, say, to the novice chase programme, but also I just think that a lot of the races are a little bit more open this year. So I think it's going to be a really good time to be anti-post betting over the next 2 or 3 weeks. So good time to be listening in to Don McLean, Daniel, hopefully myself, on the Cheltenham Trail.
Good positivity about the Cheltenham Festival. Love it. The changes have been good, haven't they? They definitely seem to have made it a bit more competitive at this stage anyway, with regards to where horses are going to run. So that's good. Right. ITV Friday, first of all. We've got prices for you as well. I'm gonna come in with Charlie, first of all, and welcome you back to the podcast. How are you? What do you like on Friday, Charlie Post?
I'm good, Tom. Good to be back. Happy New Year to everyone. Like the Veterans Chase, I mean, which again, fair play to the BHA for getting this on eventually and persevering. I'm liking remastered in this, as in, look, it's a very open, trappy contest, as it should be for the money. But I just think, look, I think David Pipes come out and said it was a mistake running him in the, what are we calling it now? The Coral Gold Cup. Yeah, is that right? Is it the Coral Gold Cup at the moment? Anyway, the old Hennessy at Newbury. It was a mistake running him there where he unseated. And look, he can take offence with him. But aside from that, he was good and tough at Wincanton on his first run back when he won by short head. He was still travelling okay there when he tipped up, I think, 4 out behind Al Dancer back at Wincanton. And he's got the addition of blinkers on for the first time in this race tomorrow. I just thought of this price. I think he was sort of 11.0 when I was going through the race. Made him interesting from a win and place perspective. And again, I think David Noonan being back on him is not a bad thing. I think he gets a pretty good tune out of this horse. So remastered, it wouldn't be one of my strongest selections, but win and place 11.0.
Whilst we're on the veterans then, Matt, I'll come to you next of all, because I know you've got an underbet trend, and then your selection as well.
Yeah, this is a proper plot race. It's often one of the best betting handicaps of the season, I think. It's hardly surprising it's a plot race. The rearranged race is worth a bit less, but normally it's 100 grand handicap. 11-year-olds and up, because you have to be a veteran, i.e. tend to run in the qualifiers, which were on the previous calendar year. So in a typical renewal, virtually none of these 11-year-old plus would have any realistic chance in any other 100 grand handicap. So it makes sense some will be plotted for this for a year or more. Equally, others won't, and will have been campaigned openly in qualifiers or other races to try and get what's often a last career win. Of course, all handicaps attract plots. What's different here is that it's rare for there to be the sorts of unexposed progressive horses that you find in typical handicaps, i.e. a horse won the last race to, say, £10 higher in consequence, but really progressive and still ahead of the handicapper. So by definition, that's unlikely for veterans, so it's easier for the plots to win. And if these veterans have been winning races during the season, especially other vets races, typically the handicap has them in the grip for a race like this. And the mistake punters have made is to latch on to recent winners on the basis they're the ones that retain ability as veterans. A lot of the others are gone. And that's played out in stark fashion so far. The trend is horses that have won a chase that season, 0 from 41. And it's not just the winners of the Vets final weren't winning chases during the season, often out with the washing. Their form is on the ticker at the bottom of the screen. The one that jumps out to me is Eldorado Allen, about 5.0. He won the November Novice Chase, the Halton Gold Cup, the Denman. Career high mark of 166. Races here off £17 lower. In his case, isn't the worry he's gone, as he's run creditably from the front both starts this season. Flattening out the business end, won 8.5 lengths second in a qualifier at Warwick, running on, having been passed and outpaced over an inadequate 2.5 last time. Been dropped a pound in consequence, looks really well handicapped in the context of this. I think he should be clear favourite for the Tizzards, who've hit the crossbar 3 times in the race previously. He looks a really good bet here, but I do want to have a saver on the informed Henry Daly's runner, Fortescue. Doesn't quite have Eldorado Allen's back class. Peak career rating 145. Good enough to win a listed handicap at Ascot of 143. He's got a £16 swing with the favourite Copperhead for finishing 14 lengths second to him in a qualifier at Aintree in October. Looks a danger off 130, so he's worth backing too. And if you like playing forecasts, I do the reverse forecast on Eldorado Allen and Fortescue.
Lovely plot race, just like the 2-mile chase at the festival. The Grand Annual. There you go. Although I don't know if it is anymore. Trends at the Cheltenham Festival still is good. All right, you can get more trends for the Cheltenham Festival if you tune in each and every week to the Cheltenham Trail. There you are. DC, how are you? Do you have anything for this, or are you looking elsewhere on Friday?
No, this was too tough for me, so I gave that a skip. I have other bets for Friday at Windsor. Will I jump into them? Yeah, the first one is party vibes in the 225 Mares handicap chase. She's second favourite to Panic Attack. I think Panic Attack will take up a lot of the market, and rightly so. But I think Party Vibes is a very good horse. She was a good hurdler last year. She won just before Christmas at 1-3. She was short odds. She only won by length, and she got into a bit of a battle with the horse in front. It was only a 3-runner race. It was kind of messy enough, but I think she was well on top and a good jump at the last one for her. She's been in my notebook for a while. She's been safe for this. Henry Daly had a winner during the week, and I think that I think she can win this. She's only about 4.0, so it'll be a small win only bet, but I like her a lot. And the other bet then was Court in the Act, Harry Durham's runner in the 335. Harry Durham had fairly well publicised problems there with his gallops and stuff there over Christmas, but I think he's due to probably hit a decent bit of form. He's a lot of runners out this weekend. I think they're coming back into form. This horse won by 8 lengths in his first run of the season. No, he was odds on. He was short odds, but he absolutely smashed him at Market Raisin at the start of October. Hasn't run since they left him off over Christmas. Again, he arrives in here now. He's near the bottom of the weights. Harry has a few more horses in the race. He has Brentford Hope and Give Me 5 as well. Brentford Hope is keeping the weights down nicely for Court in the Act, and I think he's a decent horse. He's 13.0, so I'll have a win place bet in him.
All right, elsewhere on Friday, don't forget you can get a recap of these at insights.matchbook.com. Elsewhere on Friday, did you have any others, Charlie?
Yeah, Kintara in the 115 at Windsor, the novices handicap chase. Look, he was second in the Patemps final of Montmoral last year. He's £7 lower off this mark of 127 over fences. I thought his return at Newbury was okay. You know, he finished 4th. He wasn't beat. Going down to the third last, he was still bang there. His jumping was a little bit novice-y, and he looked to me like he just blatantly needed the run. Slower ground will help. They're giving it as soft at Windsor. If the ground dried up, it would make me a little bit less keen. But as long as the ground is slow, I think there's definite mileage in this mark. And like I said, I think he's also stepped forward massively for his first run. So Kintara 8.0.
Others, Matt, for you?
Yeah, the Friday 3 o'clock at Windsor. It's 100 grand minor conditions hurdle, and I think it's perfectly set up for Blue King Daru. His record at intermediate trips really good. Won last season's Ascot hurdle, 9 lengths forced to win Perry Pass at Sandown, carrying the full penalty. Made a jolting blunder halfway, bumped 2 out, went left at the last, so lots went wrong there. This season, he was 1 length second to Lucky Place when conceding £6 in that Ascot hurdle. Winner has Frank Form in the Rail Kill, now third favourite for the Stayers hurdle. Paul's tried Blue King Daru twice at 3 miles in the long walk. too gassy last season as a 4-year-old, but this year travelled really well, looked a blatant non-stayer. So I put a line through his 3-mile form as he doesn't get home. There's not much between these on ratings, but I think Blue King Daru's intermediate trip form is being underestimated. He's the one on the up. So I think he should be quite a bit shorter. He's a good bet.
Okay, we move on to Saturday then, and to the Clarence House. Now, I put no bet. 3 of you have gone with John Bon. I'm going to come to you first again, Matt. Apologies, everyone else, because I know you're pretty strong on him, and then everyone else can give their opinion if they do make the horse a bet. But 1.72, and you think this is a solid play?
Yeah, I mean, I priced it up earlier, and I had him at about 1.4, sort of between 4.9 and 2-5 in fractional terms. So the reason for that, the trend partly feeds into this. When the race has been run as planned at Ascot, it's a bit like that Vets final. If you move it on a week or two, then it's harder to keep the same horses on the boil. But since the inaugural running, there have been 7 odds-on favourites in Renewal's run on schedule at Ascot. The only one beaten was Sprinter Sacre, who's returning from a year off following his heart problems, virtually impossible to price. By contrast, John Bon arrives here fit, well, and in his prime. He's taken on Edwardstone 5 times, Boot Hill 3 times, beaten them every time. Neither have looked like beating him. So the realistic threat's the Energumene. And I think John Bon's an artificially big price for 2 reasons. Firstly, John Bon himself, very consistent grade 1 level performer, low 170s. In his 8 runs in open company, he's run to Racing Post ratings of 170 to 174 on the 5 of them that aren't at Cheltenham. Dead reliable, never looked an outie, or let alone a Sprinter Sacre. And punters are generally keen to knock these sorts of horses. They're always looking for something to oppose them. They're not that good. And that's true in John Bon's case. In terms of comparing him to those sorts of elite 2-milers we've seen, he isn't that good. He's a low 170s horse. But that's not the right question here. The question is whether, away from Cheltenham, to always run to a low 170s mark is good enough. And I think it's very likely it will be, because I doubt Energumene is anything like the horse he was in his pomp. Yeah, he was a high 170s horse. RPR's 177, 179 when winning the champion chase, better than John Bon. But he's 11 now, had a hind leg injury, off 393 days. And then in the Hilly Way last month, of his 7 opponents there, 1 was a no-hoper. 5 of the other 6 were from Clunsutton and were never involved in the race. So had Banbridge not been having a prep for the King George, punters might have been saying Energumene was back as good as ever. Now, Banbridge is a top-class horse on a sound surface, but he's better over further. I'd said his best over 2 miles. He's a high 160s horse. And given this was a prep for the King George, it must be doubtful whether he was at his best at Cork. Energumene jumped sideways across him at last, Banbridge unseated. I'm not sure who'd have won, but I'm pretty confident it would have been close. So given Energumene was getting £10 there, my most optimistic reading of that form is him running to 160. And Willie said afterwards he's very fit, might not be much, if any, improvement to come. So I had John Bon about 1.4. If betting odds on shots is your thing, I'd get stuck into the 1.72. If that's not your style, then you might be an anchor leg for a weekend acca.
DC, do you want to add anything?
No, Matt has it well covered. I was never a huge fan of Energumene. I thought he's picked up 2 of the softest champion chases ever, and I'm glad to see John Bon is finally getting, I suppose, the respect he deserves, and I expect him to win causally. I think he'll piss up, yeah.
Energumene's champion chases, the sort of morning favourite. They both ran like drains on both occasions.
It is,
She's pulled up, and was the other one?
Edwardstone was the other one, wasn't he?
Edwardstone, yeah, but and John Bon didn't make the race that year. Was he in the Arc that year? Anyway, look, anyways.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Charlie.
Yeah, I'd take nothing away from Energumene winning his champion chases. He's still been there and done it, and come back and done it again. But John Bon is unbeaten away from Cheltenham. So, as in, he's a top class horse. I think Dee says that he's right. He probably hasn't got the respect he deserves. Like I say, he apart from the Cheltenham, he's unbeatable, and he's comes here fit in form, looking at the peak of his powers. And Energumene, as Dee said, he can pick holes in that return at Cork for all that he won. I'd make John Bon a really strong favourite in this, I think, and I think he is interested at the price.
All right, 1.72 for John Bon. So we're going back in time now to the start. The mares, again, an odds-on shot here. Cargazy 1.67. Dees.
Yeah, look, she should be a different class to all these horses. I wasn't sure if she'd go or not. I didn't know if she'd being entered to get a mark. She's here now. Look, again, it's a sharp price. Maybe you could double her with Jambon, but I think she should be a different level to the rest of the horses in the race. So I think she's a bet. Yeah, all there is to it.
You agree? You agree, Matt?
Absolutely. She comes from the all-conquering crop of last season's juveniles. We discussed this on the Matchbook Cheltenham Trail the other day. Galway Hurdle, Greatwood fighting fifth. First two in the Arkle Market, and she was. Gave Magsborough and Sergino a race in the Triumph on the anniversary, travelling really strongly on both occasions. The key question is, can she settle? Because she is very keen going. It's seasonal debut. She's been off a long time. So you would have to ideally play in running on the Matchbook Exchange, see how keen she is. But 1.67 is huge. I mean, if she settled even reasonably in the first half mile, I'd have her down as about a 1.3 shot. So, as Dee says, maybe the right way to play it is put her in a double with John Bond.
Yeah, I can see Tonin just going off out in front of her and just making all, just kicking away, letting her run, riding her like the best horse in the race and just winning. He is form doing that, but Willie's good horses when they're the best horse in the race. That's the way I think Willie likes him riding. I'd say that's what he'll do with her. She'll just go off out in front and just run away from them.
All right, a couple of shouts for Willie's mare in that one. Charlie, you looking at a bigger price?
Yeah, I mean, look, Cargasi is very obvious and probably will win. But like the Toomsy said, she is keen going. I wouldn't have said Ascot is the ideal track to be keen going on your first start, especially if the ground is riding at all tacky. And I just thought it's not a race that I'm going to take a massive interest in, but I just thought Betty was interesting. You know, her form has stepped up this year. She was a winner last time at Kempton. She's pretty versatile. She's very straightforward. She can pop out and make the run-in, and she carries no penalty. Her mark of 132 puts it in there as a player. If you take Cargasi out of the race, and at 11.0, I'd have a small bet on her in case Cargasi fluffs her lines. If Cargasi switches off, she'll take the world of beating and is by far the most likely winner.
Yeah, you might know your fate pretty early on. Cargasi then in the Mares Hurdle with Betty for Charlie. 155, the Rossington Novices Hurdle. Again, nothing from me. Charlie, I'll come to you straight away with a Skelton thing.
Yeah, Royal Infantry for me. He was, when we did our horses for follow, he was one of the horses that I flagged up for this season. And, you know, he's done nothing to go against that view. You know, he got the job done first time at Chepstow. Dan said he needed the run big time. And then he was ultra impressive over the course and distance at Haydock in December. Jumped like a buck, was spring-heeled over the last and won very impressively. Conditions are fine. He's a very sort of solid horse, good temperament, adaptable how Harry wants to ride him. Thought he'd take the world of beating in this.
And then once again, Matt and Dees agree. I will come to you first this time, Matt, on a big price.
Yeah, though the biggest price winner of this century was Alfie Flitz at 9.0, so maybe we should be banking on the favourite. But I'm going on a bit of a wing and a pair. I mean, John McConnell hasn't been in great form, hasn't had a winner for 43 days, but a lot of his run has been big prices, hasn't been having short price horses falling out the back of the telly. She began at Sligo in August, then went to Downpatrick, Cheltenham in October, so not the typical path of a horse that want heavy ground at Haydock in January. The two wins have come on soft and heavy. And her sire, Financial Reward, ran some of his best races on bad ground. He got chinned in the Spring Juvenile at Leopardstown on heavy, and he won the old 2.5 mile Grade 2 at Lingfield on deep ground. So he's only had a couple of other progeny make the racecourse. But I wonder whether she's been brought across because she will really relish these conditions. She is a keen going type, maybe well suited by 2 miles at the moment. She ran well at Leopardstown at Christmas, staying on there on yielding ground, suggesting that at this sort of trip, more of a stamina test would suit her ideally. She's been given a mark of 124 by the BHA handicapper, meaning she's £11 below the favourite and getting £10 here. So on about a 2.0 shot and a 17.0 shot, I'll give her a bit of a play.
Dees, what do you want to add?
Yeah, she was so unlucky there at Christmas. There was a bit of a tip going around for her, and she actually drifted on the day. She went off at 41.0, and she was so unlucky. She came flying home out of the fog. I think the horse that beat her just got the run on her. And I thought that she was being entered here just to check her UK mark. I was actually surprised when she was in the declarations. And again, look, you could play her just place only if you think the Royal Infantry is the one to know. I couldn't pick any holes in him. He looked really, really good. But she's a big price, and I'll be backing her. I'll probably have a small win, a good place bet. You'll only be getting 2 places on the books, but you'll get 3 places a match book for this, and maybe even do a reverse forecast as well, because she was really unlucky, and I think Mayor's, they're in good form. They hold their form, so she's been it's just an interesting entry, and I'd like to have a big price one on side in this.
Okay, moving on to back to Ascot for the 2:15 2-mile-5 handicap chase. Charlie and I agree with Marta Tor here, who I would forgive quite readily for last time. He was in electric form, Charlie, at Ascot, and also Sandown. And then last time at Kempton, they went hard, but the pace held up, and he just didn't really get into it in time. It's a bit different coming back to the flat 2 miles at Kempton compared to running over Sandown 2.5 and then 2-1 at Ascot. I actually think the extra distance here will suit, and I thought the market, there was a big overreaction to. I'd be inclined to say it wasn't necessarily the £11 rise that did for him last time, but just a strong pace at Kempton over 2 miles.
Completely agree, mate. Yeah, as in, like you say, track and pace setup just wasn't for him at all at Kempton on a very, very, well, as everyone knows, a very flat track, as against this sort of stiff, undulating finishing track at Ascot. I think Ascot can often be a bit of a specialist track where you see horses return again and again and put up better performance than they do elsewhere. I think Marta Tor very much fits that bill. As you say, the extra trip here, the way he goes through his races should be to his advantage. You know, the last time he won at Ascot, the one thing we questioned was Ned Fox on for the first time. I thought he got a really good tune out of him that day. You know, he replicated what Charlie Deutsch had been doing on him previously very well. He's back on board. Yes, he's got the rise, but in all honesty, the rise wouldn't have mattered on his penultimate start when he won at Ascot. So I think he is interested. And like you say, I think there's a bit of an overreaction to that run at Kempton. So for me, he's a real decent bet again on Saturday.
Dees?
He was the closest thing I came to a lay bet. I haven't the financial means to be laying 5.0 shots, but I think Venetia's form is terrible at the moment.
She had a winner yesterday, Dees.
She had a winner that's 1 out of 14. Like she went on an unbelievable run there, kind of the end of November, start of December when he ran a race, and I have great respect for her and for him at Ascot, but I just don't fancy him in this. And I found this a trap enough race, but the one I'm going for is trap enough horse as well. It's bad. Ben Pauling's horse. He has a touch of seconditis. He's second, third, and second this year, but they've put the blinkers on him, and I think that could help him, because I thought against Baloo at the start of the season at Ascot, he ran a cracker. He was backed into favour that day, well punted, and he just didn't quite get there. It was the same with the next race behind Buckseed SBR's with Venetia horse when she was flying it there. I think she had 5 winners that weekend. And hopefully the blinkers will just bring out a bit of improvement. He's getting a lot of weight in this. Ben Pauling is on a right form. He's 8.0, so I probably have 21 is like this. It's not that, 21 is a big tip for the Triumph there a few years ago. I'd probably have a small bet in him to win, probably a quarter stake in him to win, and 3/4 on him to place. I think the place will definitely cover the win bet, and if the blinkers do the trick, I think he'll go very close.
All right, moving on to the Peter Marsh next, the 2:30. Venetia's form is terrible, you say, Dees. Who do you like, Matt?
Venetia, this is trappy, relatively small stakes. It's the first running as a full £26 handicap, been a £20 limited handicap before. The last 2 renewals lost the weather. Previous 2 were won by Royal Pagaille, 16 lengths of 156 on heavy ground, half a length of 163 on soft ground, from Sam Brown, who now 13's amazingly rated £6 higher than he was then. And Royal Pagaille's record on testing ground at Haydock is 1-1-1-1-1. And by the novice chase race, He's had Racing Post ratings of 171 to 174 in those other 4 wins, including this year's Betfair Chase. No problem giving £20 away. He's got to give an extra £6 here, and 5 of his 7 rivals do get more than £20. But Haydock Heavy is about as specialist as it gets in Britain. All those slogs will catch up with any horse eventually. But in the context of the conditions, he finished quite strongly in the Betfair Chase when classy horses like Grey Dawning were out on their feet. Not suggesting Royal Pagaille wasn't tired at the end, of course he was. What I mean was that having been steady right down into the last, you'd normally expect a horse to struggle to get any momentum back after it in those conditions. But he did quicken after a fashion, albeit from 21 to 25 miles an hour. And he looked to me like he could have kept that gallop up for a little longer. So he didn't look to finish really empty, as Grey Dawning did. It's going to be a war of attrition. These horses are going to have to go his Grade 1 heavy ground gallop. He's only carrying £4 more here than the Betfair Chase. And they're going to have to keep galloping, even with their lightweights. So the question mark is, in his previous 2 wins, he hadn't had that slog in the Betfair Chase. Novice the first time. Second time, he'd been running on a sound surface, well beaten by Aplutar. So to me, this comes down to whether he's taken that Betfair Chase well or not. And we've seen with the likes of Grey Dawning and Jerry Colombe that when these top staying chases are run on really bad ground, it's often the second that's bottomed by the race. The winner, who may not have had to give everything to win, is a better chance of coming through okay. I don't know how Royal Pagaille's taken the Betfair Chase, but it's not as if we're backing a 2.0 shot. He's 3.5. So small stakes, trappy event, but I'll go with him.
Charlie.
Mr. Vango for me, for Sarah Bradstock. He's a 9-year-old, but very lightly raced. And, he's kind of come into his own over the last sort of season and a half over these marathon trips. He was good at Exeter over a real marathon trip, and then at Sandown on his latest start in December. He won by a length and a half. I think he's only got a £5 rise, which I think is very much within his compass. And he's a horse that I can see bagging one of these big stay-in handicap chases on real bad ground. He's won over around Haydock over hurdles before, and I just think he ticks a lot of boxes. And Royal Pagaille being in there means he's in off 10 stone 2. Jack Tudor's been booked. I don't see that as an issue. He's ridden him before, and he's a very talented young rider himself. So, yeah, I think this horse is really interesting in a race like this. And the fact that he has such a light weight because of the presence of Royal Pagaille is an added bonus.
I like Trelawn going back to Haydock, the scene of that success over at Iroko. I like what he did there, and Iroko I have a huge amount of respect for. I thought Iroko was not seen to best effect, but Trelawn still had to pull out plenty more. He ran okay at Ascot last time. Obviously, that race was won by a bit of a course specialist, and Trelawn tried to do it the hard way on that occasion, and Victorino came from off it. But I quite like him back here, Trelawn, Dease.
Yeah, same as you. Thought was very good when he beat Iroko. I did it from the front. I'd say he's probably just below top class, graded class. He's probably he's going to be running off heavyweights and handicaps now for a long time. But he's getting a break at the weights because of Royal Pagaille today or on Saturday. Yeah, I really like him. I think he's my best bet of the weekend, to be honest. And the other one, I'm just going to chance a small little bit on Richmond Lake as well. This is only his second time running at this distance. They're putting him up in distance, but he kind of looked like he needed the extra distance out of the tour runs this year. He's running the entry twice. Has won on heavy ground, but not Haydock heavy ground, but he has won a Haydock as well. He's going to be a big price, so I'd probably just have a tiny win bet on him, but I'd back him for 3 and 4 places.
Okay, we move on to, or we go back to Ascot, 2 mile 3.5 for this. I didn't miss anyone there, did I? No, good. I'll kick off if I can. Doddy the Great and Altabelli. Now, Doddy the Great, my God, he is turning into an unlucky horse. I mean, last time was an absolute shocker at the start. It wasn't his fault, but I was willing to back him last time. There's a bigger price here. Like if you go back to that, I know it's a while back, but if you go back to that Newbury run off £3 higher, where he was the only horse to really even look like getting involved, up the wrong side, I thought he's just got to be worth a bet here, win place. So I definitely want him on side, Doddy the Great, although he'd probably get beaten in a one-horse race. And Altabelli's the other one who I thought ran well last time. I like the cheek pieces going on just to hopefully pull out a little bit more because he's definitely capable of a mark of 132. And Harry Fry had a good few entered up here, and he's gone with this horse. The jockey was jocked up pretty early, and I was going to, a bit like Donny the Great, 2 horses I'm probably going to back wherever they turned up next. Charlie.
Yeah, as in Bo Zenith for me. We saw him at Cheltenham in December making his first start for the Nicky Henderson team after a long sort of 18-month layoff, and he was an eye catcher. Finished third behind Mirabad, who was Mirabad enterprisingly ridden, stole the race sort of midway through, and had enough in the tank to hang on. But Bo Zenith was sort of mid-division, patient ride, then got shuffled back a bit further and made some really strong late progress to be beat 6 lengths. He was a high-quality novice before that for Gary Moore. You know, I mean, he'd be at short-headed Aintree in a grade 1 behind Zenta. I mean, granted, maybe that form wasn't the strongest of grade 1s, but of 138, you know, the handicap I saw his return, and it was promising enough to bump him up £3. He was a massive price pre-Dex. Obviously, he's come in an awful lot now. He's 13.0 before declarations. I don't know if it's a concern that James Bowen's on him and Nico de Boinville's on your selection, Dotty the Great, but that doesn't temper my enthusiasm. I thought he looked a horse that still has a decent amount of ability retained, and this sort of mark should be within his compass.
Matt. Oh, you're frozen. Dees, come in. We'll come back to Matt.
Yeah, I've gone for Josh the Boss in this one. Again, he was 14.0 before Dex, and I see on there now he's 10.0 as best price. Look, he was really good at the start of the season at Chepstow, beating Diane Quest by 4 lengths. And we know that Diane Quest had a fair amount in hand on that run. He followed up at Cheltenham where he skated home. But I don't think that Josh the Boss didn't steal the race or anything. He got first run on him, but he stayed ahead of him. He was only giving them £5. The next time he ran a Haydock, he was never in the race at all. Again, it was soft ground, probably softer than that. It could have been closer to heavy. They said he hated it. They've given him a break now. He's back. Again, he's 10.0 now. That's just about okay for me. The only concern I'd have with him is that after Christmas last year, he went off the boil. He didn't have a great spring, but he looks a good horse. He's only 6. He's entitled to improve, so I'll have him in place.
I can tell you that.
Yeah, Nigel Swiston Davis as well has done very well at this meeting. Past 3 years, he nearly always has a winner at it, so he's someone to keep an eye on.
Matt is with Georgie Girl for a yard bang on song. Philip Holson Johnson, White Ben Jones takes the ride and is 17 points.
He's here. He's back.
Oh, he's back. You want to make the case for Georgie Girl, Matt?
Sorry about that. Yeah, she won nicely off 125 in a mare's handicap at Warwick on her reappearance. Detached much of the time, quickening up well, win with plenty of hand. £4 rise looked fair. And then she went to Cheltenham last month for a mare's handicap of 129. That turned into a bit of a sprint, and she looked to be going well coming to the last. Made a mistake and lost momentum, which was particularly crucial the way the race unfolded. Looked a good contest. Who represented last season's all conquering juveniles. The runner-up, Joyce, had a big reputation. Home as a well-handicapped horse at 7 Barrows. Third, Take No Chances, was deemed good enough by Dan Skelton to have a go in the fighting 5th, even though she had a mark of 137. The slow tempo makes it muddling form to assess. None of those 3 have run since. The 4th's run decently at Christmas. So with a better pace to run at, Goshen, Stoner's Choice, Josh the Boss, Willful, all often ridden. Fortunately, Bo Zenith was back in the day. I'm hoping Georgie Girl can resume her progress, having a good pace to run at.
We move on to the last race we're going to preview, which is a 3-mile handicap hurdle at Haydock. I'll kick off with a front runner, Tiny Tetley, for Hobbs and White. Bang on song, the yard of flying. Just a typical profile from this yard. One run off the back of a quiet enough season last year, did okay, and then I thought was really good at Taunton, where just saw them all off. Fortunate was much more patiently ridden. I thought came to win the race, and Tiny Tetley just battled on. He's only 7. I think there should be loads more come off 115, and he's just pretty relentless on the front end. So 8.0 Tiny Tetley win and place for me, DC.
Just I'm having a bet off the original Lassie Mouse. Was last seen running eye-catchingly for Polly Grundy, who had a winner yesterday. He was off for a long time. He used to be with Tom Lacey, was a good hurdler back in 2021. Massive horse, really big horse. I think that soft ground will suit him. He's carrying a big weight, but he's, as I said, no, he hasn't run a lot. Might be afraid of the bounce factor, but he's 14.0, so I'll back him in place. But I can see the heavy ground suiting him, and he was a nice horse a couple of years ago. So if he retains any visibility, he should go close here.
Charlie.
Yeah, I'm with Dees on this, as in we last saw Lossie Malpatet, Grade 2 winner at Sandown, was then ran okay in Stage Stars Shallow Hurdle at Newbury, returned after 3 years off a £10 lower mark, 134, handicappers left him alone. And yet, if you go back and watch the race, he travelled up there seriously well and just looked to me like he got tired, which was entitled to do after 3 years off the track. Given plenty, Dees mentioned the bounce factor. He's been given plenty of time to get over that. That was the 29th of November, a good 6 or 7 weeks since that run to take the run and get over it and return to training. As Dee said, Polly Grundy had a listed winner yesterday, so the yard's going fine. And I thought slower conditions up at Haydock would be in his favour as well. And Charlie Deutsch on board, which, isn't a bad substitute for Stan Shepherd at all. Charlie Deutsch riding fantastically well and very, very good, I think, in these sort of slow conditions as well.
And Matt, finally, the one at the top of the market.
Yeah, on heavy ground at Haydock, especially the staying races like this, a simple approach to looking for horses who prove themselves on Haydock heavy can pay dividends. 3 in here with that form, Old Bushy Park, who won 3 handicaps back in the day. Inox Allen, who was 38 lengths third last season's Prestige, and Punta del Este, who won over 2 miles 3 here in December last season off 121, then pulled up in the Potence qualifier off 131. Inox Allen's interesting. He's inclined to be keen. You can't hope to get home here if you do that. He's one for in-running players on the Matchbook Exchange. Lucinda Russell says 3 miles on heavy ground is what he wants. So if he does settle, I'll be looking to have a saver on him in running. But I'm siding with Punta del Este, who looked to relish conditions when bolting up in that handicap last season, albeit it was an ordinary contest. That was over 2-3. He hasn't shone in either start at 3 miles. Both were no-shows, though, beaten well before stamina should have been an issue. And he's often been staying on over intermediate trips in the manner of a stayer by gentle wave out of a catguard mare. So on breeding, he could be a stayer. He will go on the ground. So I'll give him another chance to prove that this is the sort of test that he really wants.
Okay, Sunday, I'm straight back at you, Matt. One bet for you in the 305.
Yes, this is the Fleur de Lis chase. We don't have decks for this yet, but one who is confirmed as an intended run, the unbeaten Indiana Dream. Hugely impressive in 2 starts for Willie Mullins, winning a maiden hurdle by 15 lengths 2 seasons ago from rivals rated 131, 130 now. It was only run last season. He hosed up in a beginners at Navan by 13 lengths from the very talented San Felicien. Normally being transferred out of Closutton wouldn't be a good sign in a race at this level. However, I think Willie has such competition for spaces that the really talented horses that are very fragile can get squeezed out because they've got so many talented horses they are confident will get to the track. Jungle Boogie's a similar type who moved to Henry de Bromhead's last season has flourished. So Indiana Jones, bit of a bolt up or bomb out proposition, but he's a big horse, got the soft ground he wants. And other than the Hoisin, he's getting weight from all the other main protagonists. AJ O'Neill said they'd only had him a couple of months, so there's always the risk he may just need this run. But he has obviously gone well fresh in the past. So waiting for the Matchbook Exchange price a few minutes before the off, the ideal strategy. But if he's strong, I'd happily take a shorter price then. But 13.0 anti-post for tipping purposes, I'll take a flyer with him.
And Dees, you've got one at Fakenham.
Yeah, I have no idea what price this horse is going to be now, but it's Boltonley in the, or sorry, Boltonley in the Mare's Chase at 320. I always look for course form at Fakenham, especially in the Chase course. I'm reading somewhere before that there's one fence there. I think it's just after the winning post. There's a sharp downhill run, and more horses fall at that per meeting than any other course in the country. I can't quote me on that now, but it's always something that stuck with me. And this horse has good good faking form. This is the final of a series. She qualified at the start of the season in Carlisle, finishing third. She just ran out of it. She has won over course and distance by 14 lengths off a mark 1 pound lower, I think 2 seasons ago. And she trained by Richard Newland, who is brilliant at lining horses up for these kind of handicaps. So again, no idea what price she's going to be, but is one to just keep an eye on.
Okay, that's a couple for Sunday. Match with Zero long shot. These are from Saturday now. Mind that Match with Zero goes live an hour before the race. You're most likely to get best odds because there's zero margin and zero commission. So for win bets, head there. Mine's Tiny Tetley in that 305 at Haydock. Matt.
Indiana Dream, very much a win-only bet.
Charlie.
Bo Zenith, Ascot 250.
And Dees, I'm not surprised with yours.
Clonera in the at 17.0 in the 5 to 2 at Haydock.
Yeah. And best bets. Mine's Marta Tour in the 215 at Ascot for a team in form. Matt.
Blue King Daru at around 3.5 in the 3 o'clock at Windsor on Friday.
Charlie.
Royal Infantry, 155 Haydock.
And Dees, if you hadn't gone for this, I would.
And Trelawn in the Peter Marsh, the 230 at Haydock.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone. Head to insights.matchbook.com for a recap of all of our best bets and prices when we put them up. And we'll chat to you again next week. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.